Welcome to this how-to tutorial on how to create a gabion wall using the plugin VoroFrag in 3DSmax. First, you can go to Script Spot and search for VoroFrag. And then if you scroll down here, here are the two different available downloads. So I clicked this one and it downloaded, and it will come up in your files like this. You may need to, if you're using Windows, click Extract All, select Extract, and then here we have the different versions of VoroFrag. So we want to use 2020 to 2021, and so the way we get that to use in 3DSmax is to go to your C drive and to go to this place. So you go to your C drive, Program Files, Autodesk, 3DSmax 2020, and then your plugins. And what you want to do is drag and drop the VoroFrag into there. So make sure that you've closed your 3DSmax, and then when you reopen it, the VoroFrag should be installed as a plugin. So once you've got 3DSmax open, you can draw an object just to check that the modifier is there. So go to the modify panel with the object selected, and then on the drop down arrow, you type Voro and you find VoroFrag. So that's applied to the object, and here you can see the number of chunks. So we want to increase that, and then increase the gaps, kind of shows that it's fragmenting. So we'll delete that and we'll start. So what we want to do is to draw a box which is the size of the wall you want to do. So if you click and drag, you can draw a box, but down here in the parameters you can choose the length of your wall. We might say 16 meters, the width, which might be 2 meters, and let's say the height is 2 meters as well. So there's our wall. So what we want to do is right click and go to clone, and we just want to make a copy of this box. So click OK, and now you can see that there's two boxes here. So one box we want to be slightly bigger than the other. So while it's selected, change the length to 16.2, change the width to 2.2, and change the height to 2.2. So you can see now that there's one sitting within the other. So now what we want to do is to go to the modify panel with the larger box selected, go to the modify drop down menu and find the lattice tool. And what we want to do, so these big things aren't happening, is choose struts only from edges. At the moment the radius is set to 2 meters. We probably want that as 0.01, which is about 10 mil. And the rest should be fine. So now what you can see is we've got a box around our other box, and it's turned into a type of lattice. So if we click back into the box section in our modifier and increase the segments, we can now see that there's the lattice creating on the segment. So this is making our wire that sits around the rocks. So if we increase the lengths and the segments to be what you want it to be, I'm thinking 2 looks pretty good. For the height and the width, we'll just click Option and the center scroll on your mouse to have a look. So that looks pretty proportionate to me. Yeah, so here we have our outer edge. So I might actually go back to the box and increase it by double, so 30 by 4 by 4, and that shows a finer mesh. Not really liking how much of a gap is between the two, so I might increase this to 16.15 and 2.15, and height is 2.15. So that's a lot closer to the outer kind of wire mesh. So we want to then select our first box, which doesn't have any modifiers, and in the modifier panel, go down and find your VoroFrag. So increase the number of chunks you want to have. If you can't see anything, you can turn on edged faces, and that'll show all your fragmentations. So we want quite a few. We might make it 150. There we are. And then what we can do is also have some gaps. So we want it to look like rocks that are sitting in there, which they won't all be perfectly put together. So we might have it like that, and that's starting to look like our gabion wall. The other things that you can do, you can detach all, and that will turn each fragmentation into a separate object. I don't need to do that for this, but it might be helpful for something else. And there you have a gabion wall. What we might do is add some materials to the objects. So if we go to the material editor, if we choose a physical material, right, so if you choose a physical material and go down here next to base color and reflections, you can click a bitmap and click OK. And then on my desktop, I found just a texture, just from a Google search. I think I clicked, wrote stone texture, and then just select one that I wanted. So now you can see that the material has the stone. I want to go back up to parent and increase the roughness so that it's not as reflective. Select our box, and then if we can go show shaded material in viewport, and then assign material to selection. Now see that that stone material is applied to the stone. What we might do next is we just really want a shiny-ish grey material, so we might use this one that's already in there. We can select our box with the wire mesh, and then click again, display, show shaded material in viewport, and then assign material to selection. So now you can see we turn our edged faces off. So now you can see that we've got the stone texture applied to all the fragments, and then the steel texture, metal texture with a bit of shine to it applied to the lattice. And that's how you can model a gabion wall.